Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mindfully Aligned. I'm your host, Adonze Benjamin, and thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode. This episode is going to be a foundational one. It is something that is the cornerstone of the quote-unquote mindfully aligned mentality. It's kind of an epiphany I had when I was a lot younger, and it has really carried me through my years, and it's going to carry me through my future. And I was like, you know what? Before I get deeper into things as these episodes continue, I need to hammer down this first. The concept of your higher self. If you want to achieve a life you enjoy, or you have faced some kind of adversity, or you are facing some kind of adversity, or you're just working through an obstacle in life, it's important that we meet this person, quote unquote, our higher self. It's important that we ask ourselves, who is this person? Because they can become a guiding light for you. And it might sound complicated off the bat or a bit mystical, but it's really so simple. And it's just an easy way to stay on track and manifest the life that you really want for yourself. So before I get into things deeper, let me explain what I mean by that. So our higher selves are the best version of us. I almost imagine it as that version of me that has accomplished all I've wanted to accomplish and is now looking back on my life. You have reached the pinnacle of it all. You've done it. You've achieved your dreams. That is your higher self. That is who you are aspiring to be right now. And so it's important to keep this person in mind. And of course, when we're dreaming about our future, occasionally we'll think about it, but it's important that if we're trying to really stay focused, we kind of create them fully as a person in our heads. And you almost want to grow to admire them and keep them on your shoulder as a moral compass, something to guide your conscience. It gives you direction in life. And if you are trying to achieve a goal, if you know what you want for this next phase of life, you need direction in order to achieve it. And a higher self, or creating a relationship with your higher self, allows us to hone in on that and stay the course. It also helps you tune out other people's definitions for success in favor of your own. When you really sit down and meditate on what that idea of the best version of you is, you can kind of really formulate that goal or understand what would make you happiest in life without the opinions of other people or what they think that should be. For example, if your parents are the type where they want you to be a doctor or a lawyer and they're very stringent about that, but when you really sit down with yourself and you think about the happiest you could be, the most accomplished you could be, and you imagine yourself as a journalist or something completely different, that is what is aligning with your soul. And when you really sit instead of consuming other people's opinions and thoughts and tune in with your own, it allows you to just make better decisions for yourself and act within alignment. And when we act within alignment, all the steps are so much easier. If you were pushing yourself to conform to your parents' dreams or just the dreams of other people that they've put on you, you trying to achieve that thing would be like pulling teeth. It's not second nature, it's not effortless because it's not what you're meant to do and it's out of alignment. That's that feeling when everything just feels hard and like you're climbing up a hill and it's like, this should not be this hard. It's because you're out of alignment. And so identifying your higher self, not the version of you your parents want you to be, or society wants you to be, or your friends want you to be. Sitting down with yourself and thinking, okay, when I imagine myself to be the most happy and accomplished in life, it's by doing XYZ. That's that person you want to chase. And the journey that it takes to achieve that, it's going to be so much more second nature to you because your soul is meant to do it. And that's not to say that your sole purpose is going to be completely easy. It's not, nothing worthwhile is easy. But the thing that makes it different is that when you're in the trenches, when you're doing that grunt work, you can remember the bigger picture and just keep on grinding. This is something that I do, when I'm working long hours or when I'm trying to put in that extra work. I don't feel miserable at all because I know that what I'm doing is in line with that person I want to be. And it just makes everything have so much more meaning. And it reminds me that I'm doing this for a reason. And it helps you to look up from the trenches and see the bigger picture, really. So that is a bit of why identifying your higher self is so important. It can be easy, again, to get caught up in other people's ideas of who you should be. But when you are looking up to your future self, you can really stay the course, and it's easier to stay focused on doing the work that it takes to become that person. But I know it's a big idea, and so it's kind of hard to think off the bat in such an in-depth way about who that person might be for you, because yeah, it's really different for everyone. In fact, I kind of developed this idea when I was in 7th grade, believe it or not. Like, I didn't know I was doing it, but from then I really was thinking about who I wanted to be when I was older. And whenever anyone asked me who I looked up to, I would always say my future self. And I would just envision this version of Adonze that was at the top of her career and had just done so much and achieved so much. And I would just think, okay, what can I do now that she would do? What clubs would I join in middle school that she would do? What would Adonze do? And that's really what we want to ask ourselves. And again, like, I want us to remember that it can change. What I wanted to be in 7th grade is different than what I want to be now. So that's okay. Your higher self can evolve as you evolve. You may even realize down the line that you're capable of achieving even more than you thought. And so your higher self, that vision you had, can grow. Things can shift around, things can change, but it's just important that we have that person in our minds as we're going through life. So in this episode, I want to inspire everyone to sit down with ourselves and paint that picture for what we want our higher self to look like. You want to think about, what do they look like? You know, what would looking your best feel like or look like to you? You want to consider how they carry themselves, how they dress. Do they dress for success? You know, what does that mean for you? How do they feel? How do they work? Where do they work? Where do they live? How do they live? Do they live in a high-rise? Do they live in the mountains and have a lake house? Do they live in Florida? Do they live somewhere where it's sunny all the time? What's their daily routine? Are they in a suit every single day, or are they surfing on a beach and they own a surfing training company? I don't know. It's up to you. It's almost like you're building this character in your mind. Like, what is the happiest version of reality for you? And you want to explore as much of that in your mind as you possibly can. So after you paint that beautiful picture in your mind, you want to ask yourself, how do you set yourself up for that life one step at a time? What can you do today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year that gets you one step closer to that version of you? And you want to hold yourself accountable to that and view your life from that lens. Tap into that and think, okay, that version of Adonze, did she make excuses at every turn? You want to ask yourself, did they get distracted by pouring into relationships that aren't going anywhere? Did they make sacrifices? Did they work overtime? Did they work late nights? You want to really view your life as it is right now from that lens, almost like you're looking back on your life today. And if it doesn't sound right, then maybe it's not right for you. If I'm imagining Adonze who is super successful and is at the pinnacle of her career and she's achieved all she's wanted to achieve, it doesn't make sense in that story that she would be lazy at work when she was an intern. That doesn't make sense. And so it makes you kind of check yourself and be like, yeah, this doesn't really align with who I am and where I'm trying to go. Being aligned with your higher self also allows you to be able to tell when things are meant for you versus when they're not meant for you. For example, if you're considering whether you want to stay in your city post-grad or not, you can really think about, okay, am I choosing to stay in this city out of convenience because I want to be with my friends, or, you know, it's easier because my roots are here, or is this really what is destined for me? You know, and you think back to your higher self. did they stay in Philly? Does that make sense for the person that they want to be? Or when you think back to that person you created in your mind and their story, does it make more sense for them to get their start in LA or in DC? Maybe you're entertaining a group of friends that doesn't really serve you or that aren't really looking out for you. You can really think, okay, that person that I'm thinking of, my higher self, the strong woman, the assertive woman, the woman who knows her worth and can command a room, did she chase after friends who didn't really care about her? No, that doesn't really make sense. Did she feel pressured to go along with plans that didn't align with her values or how she wanted to invest her time? No, that doesn't really make sense. So you can easily defend those choices or those choices that make you feel conflicted and refer back to that person you want to be in an easier way, and it can really help you hold yourself accountable. And the thing I like about this is that, life seems long and it seems kind of hard to imagine sometimes how things now affect things later. But I think this kind of paints it in a pretty picture that is easier to digest on how our actions affect us, how our choices can help or hurt us. It's like I imagine myself sitting on a talk show or I'm getting interviewed and they're like, Adonze, so tell us, how did you do it? Or if my major had me come back to school as a guest speaker and they ask me, how did you do it? Would it make sense if I said I was lazy at my internship? I was lazy during this. I didn't show up to class. And I got there by cutting corners at work. I got there by, getting distracted with relationships that weren't fulfilling. And, I just kind of didn't really care. And that's how I got here. No, that doesn't make any sense. So I sit down and I think about that person who's getting interviewed. How did she do it? And I'm like, how did she do it? What would make the most sense for this story? No, she actually gave 100% to everything she could. She showed up everywhere she could. She gave 110%. She worked overtime sometimes. Sometimes she said no to plans to work. She used the gym as an escape to let her stress out so that she could keep her mental health well and keep working. That's how she did it. So things like that, it helps us stay accountable. So next time you want to kind of skip that class or slack off at work, I kind of, you want to ask yourself those things what would she do? Yeah, she wouldn't really do that. And of course, we're not perfect people, but I think keeping that in mind, it keeps us from losing sight of what we truly want. It helps us really think about what we want now versus what we want later. So how do we apply it? Now we have this person on our shoulder who's always reminding us when we're being lazy or when we're cutting corners. I'm holding myself to the standard. What do I do about this now? There are so many encouraging ways you can easily implement this best version of yourself into your consciousness, into your subconscious. For one, I mentioned this a couple episodes ago. Vision boards is a great way to do this. Going on Pinterest, putting together photos that represent that person you want to be, making it pretty, and seeing it every day on your phone is a great way to remind yourself of that. One thing that I also really love is following people who share aspects of your higher self through work or maybe your professors or guest speakers. Now that you have your higher self in mind, you know what they're like, you can kind of go about the world trying to pick out aspects of people who are like, oh yeah, that is who that is for me. For example, I mentioned my internship at Atlantic, and I remember the first big boardroom meeting I sat on, or the first big meeting I sat in on, there was this woman. She was a Black woman, and she had this amazing commanding presence about her. And something about her just reminded me of me. I saw this version of myself that I saw for years was right in front of me. And so it set something off in my mind. Okay, I got to pay attention to her. How does she show up in the office? How does she speak to people? What kind of ideas does she come up with? And I really kind of studied this person, and she became an inspiration to me. And the last day of my internship, I got to have a sit-down, one-on-one meeting with her and pick her brain about her career and how she got there and what kind of sacrifices she had to make. And I was able to apply that to my life and know, okay, she is someone who's doing what I want to do. I know in a clearer way what it took for her to get there. I'm going to apply that to my life now. So when those sacrifices she made come up in my life, I know, okay, I'm doing the right thing. So you want to really be on the lookout in life for people who inspire you in that way. Once you know what the model is, you can really pick those aspects out in other people and kind of really study them. Keep up with them too. You can follow them, see how they show up in life, and it can be an easy way for you to manifest that for yourself. Maybe even make them your mentor so that you can regularly tap in with them, get advice. That is really such a priceless relationship. So these people, when you're in the workplace, when you're at your internship or you landed your first job, these people, these inspiring people are walking in front of you every day. But once you put on that lens of, okay, I'm looking out for my higher self now, it really changes things. It can really help you make the most out of those kinds of relationships. And seeing the people in your workplace as inspiring can push you even more to perform better. And something I want to add too is if you are part of a marginalized group in the workforce, if you're a woman, person of color, or a woman of color, this is so crucial because representation in the workplace is already not where it needs to be. And it can probably be even worse depending on your field. But that's why it's super important to have those people in mind, because it's almost like you are giving yourself a physical version in front of you of your higher self. It's like there's that version of you walking around in real life, and you can ask them questions in real life about how they did what they did. I have to say, the bosses I have, I'm really lucky because they all have aspects that emulate that person I want to be. And so I can see how they work, I can admire their hustle, and I can apply it to my own life. And as a Black woman specifically, that is super important. We are Black women, women in general too, are underestimated in the workforce. And so having people you can see yourself in as well is crucial to your success. And as we navigate through the workplace, we have to really prioritize making those connections and finding those people who inspire us to be our higher selves. My mentor, she's amazing. She's also a Black woman. So when I see her being successful, she's appeared on Forbes. Shout out to you, Shauna. She is amazing. And so I am seeing a Black woman, a woman who looks like me in my industry, accomplishing what I want to accomplish. It's amazing. And so you want to keep those people close to you. And if they're not in front of you, be on the lookout for them. Connect with them. Maybe you, in your classes, you have a guest speaker that really inspires you. Your higher self would reach out to them. Your higher self would take the initiative to network with them. And that's exactly the kind of thinking that this creates is, okay, yeah, I know I'm scared, but I'm scared to reach out to them. But my higher self would. So I want to be like her, so yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to reach out to her. And then the more you take those kinds of steps, the gap between you currently and your higher self closes, and you become one the more steps you take to be like that person. And so the point of all this is to say, live your life as if you are that successful version of yourself looking back on things. You're looking back at how you got here. You're reminiscing on your 20s and thinking about all those nights you put in the work and made all those tough sacrifices. You know you couldn't have done it without that. And you thank yourself and you know that you earned that shit. That is really my secret on how I stay motivated. It keeps me going when I feel like things are too much sometimes, when classes are classing and maybe I have a lot of work. I remember her, I tap into her, and I'm like, yeah, but she got through it. She did that, and she got what she deserved. So that is what I leave you all with. Thank you for tuning into this short and sweet solo episode. I hope I could give you guys some good nuggets on a method of staying the course. And one thing I want to start doing on the show is leaving you guys with a song of the week. I mentioned a lot of my manifestation songs that I listen to that keep me uplifted and just gets that part of my soul going. So I'm gonna have a song of the week. This week's song of the week is called Float by Janelle Monáe. It's a great song. When I would run before work at like 5 a.m., I would listen to this song, and it is just so amazing. One thing I love about this song is Janelle Monáe's sheer and utter confidence that is just bleeding through the song. It's impossible to listen to it without feeling like you too can crush the world with your wings and dominate. It's an amazing song to really start your day. It's about, maybe you were more reserved. Maybe you walked with your head down, but now you really grew your wings, you grew into yourself, you understood your power, and now the world is yours. It's just a great bop, and listen to it next time you're at the gym. Maybe add it to your playlist, add it to your saved songs, and maybe start your manifestation playlist with it. First song on there, I don't know. You'll thank me later. It's a great one. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's episode. Again, short and sweet solo vibe. Thank you again for tuning in. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, all the things. And I'll see you next Monday.